Yeah, if you win out, you win. You don't can beat you. If you win, if you're perfect the rest of the way, you can't be beat. But if you lose some games, then you can be beat. So, pressure's on. It's like you survived the first round, now you got to power through the next round of games.
I don't just put on the agenda for next month.
I can tell you. I guess I got back. I should have the copy.
We'll just
Go through it on the 6th.
go through it on the 6th.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay?
Yep.
Commission to pass the money back and forth.
Yeah, that's what I figured you would say.
You're
That's what I said. I'm like,
Jenny's in second. Jenny's in second.
but see, they don't know I was coming tonight for this. So.
Yeah, Jenny's tied for second. We got a lot of basketball knowledge on this table.
Yeah. Or luck, one of the.
First, 15th, and second, right here on this side.
Who's 15?
Me.
Who's second?
I was
Jenny Moorhead. She's in second place. She's tied for second right now with Beth Thompson. You know?
I filled the bracket out, Brian.
No, I could. I would trust Jenny for. No, he filled the end out, but I don't think.
Did you fill his out?
No, he's on his own.
All right, it is 5:30. We will call the service committee meeting to order. Mr. Geller, you're all ready. You're all ready.
Ready. Okay.
Go get it, Tiger.
We'll go ahead and get started with Aaron Shannon, and I'm sorry, your name?
Jenny Moorhead.
Jenny Moorhead. They're going to explain the lease to purchase program that we're talking about doing with the automatic meter reading system. If you remember right, we heard about this program a little bit through Zenner, and they proposed something to us, and we thought, well, you know, if we could maybe get something similar to that locally, maybe that would be better for us. And Jay had been working on that there, and talked to Aaron about it, and then just kind of proceeded from there.
Johnstown's had a good experience with this?
Johnstown, I don't know that they're on this program. I don't know anything about that, whether they're on a program similar to this or how they went about paying for theirs, but this is kind of the way we thought would be best for us.
Johnstown's on the Zenner program.
But they're on
No.
Zenner.
Oh, yeah, they're on
They're
Zenner.
on Zenner.
They've got good.
They're on the automatic readers.
They're on automatic readers. We're not going with Zenner. We're going with Census. That's who we ended up deciding to go with.
Oh, okay.
This is more about
And it's not that Zenner has a bad product. They have a good product. The city has been with Census for, well, ever. One of the things that we realized in this process is that the Zenner product would require a different type of wiring in using them than what Census has, or what Census will have with their automatic reading system. So by going with Census, we eliminate the need to probably, in one way, shape, or form, go into touch somehow. 90%, John Appleman thought, of the houses or of the customers that we have in Heath to rewire from their meters to our reader, so that we would be able to use the Zenner product. And when you calculated in the cost just for the wiring, and not really calculating in the cost of the man hours that our distribution crew would have in completing these rewirings, and the inconvenience to homeowners and customers having to schedule appointments, because in many cases we would actually have to be inside their homes doing this.
In attics, basements, running a third wire.
It made sense to
Didn't want to call them in the basements or attics.
Well, they've done that once, and they knew how long it took for that to happen. So with this program, with the census program, it's just a program that's about 30 seconds. They walk up, they snap something on the outside, they reprogram the meter, and that's all there is to it.
Is the software capabilities and reporting detail comparable?
The biggest difference was how the data gets from the various customers, various collection points, to us. Zenner's system, probably the best way to describe it is, Zenner's system had the ability to meter by meter relay the readings back to us. Census's system requires a collection point, an antenna, that then radios the information in. So rather than having basically a network of meters that are all being utilized to report, the census system utilizes collection points. And when we met with them, in order to cover the city, I think we were looking at 2 different collection points that would need to be installed, and that would be part of Census's job in helping us get up and running, helping us get this meter reading system up and running.
Zenner has a spread spectrum radio type system, which is a system that anybody can get on. We have it with some of our wells and short capabilities from like our well field to the plane and so forth. We find out that someone else gets on the same frequency that we are on, we could have a potential problem with that. With the census system, we have a paid for frequency that we utilize all the time, and we feel that there wouldn't be as much problems with that. If someone did get on our frequency, then we could tell them that they need to get off, because that is our free radio
From the FCC.
Yes. That's kind of a good point of the census too. So what I'm going to do is have Aaron kind of explain a little bit about the financing on this lease to purchase program. So Aaron, if you don't mind.
Well, basically what it boils down to is that we could structure this however you guys wanted us to, and we appreciate the opportunity to do it locally. So John had presented us with or Jay, I think, had presented us with a program from out of state, wherever that was from. And the big things that they were keying in on was it was a lease to purchase, and you didn't have to pay for the first 12 months. Well, we can be as flexible as you need to be and set all that up as well. The biggest thing is that the city has the opportunity to either do a general obligation bond to finance it or this lease. The lease is off balance sheet, which is very attractive from what, we've talked with the mayor and Jay. And we can do that. It's just a matter of setting up the documents to reflect the lease. What that means is that we can do a 5-year lease, no payment for the first 12 months, so it would be an annual payment thereafter. We can give you a low interest rate. I mean, it's 2.84 is what we've offered, because of the fact that it's a tax-free.
Municipal.
Yeah. So, and we hold that true whether it's a general obligation bond or whether it's a lease. We price everything to, it's set up the same. Again, the only dynamics of the deal that are different is how the attorney puts the documents together. But there is a down payment. I don't know whether you've talked numbers or whether we should go into that, but it's not to exceed $460,000, which again, that took into account a down payment that your water department was looking into. Under a lease situation, we actually, Park National Bank owns the meters. Would we ever repossess or do anything with them? No, because I don't want to have to go into attics or basements
You're not
and get
taking
anything
blanket
either.
UCC filings on the whole city, are you? Okay.
No,
That's
we're
good.
not. So it's your responsibility, obviously, to keep the equipment good and workable and insured and all that stuff. But we're really looking to the city of Heath to repay it regardless. So again, if anything needs to be stretched out or changed in any way, shape, or form, we're willing to entertain that. But right now it's on the table, and the attorney has prepared initial documents based on what we've just discussed. A 5-year deal, lease to purchase, you own it at the end of this annual payment.
Prepayment penalties?
No prepayment penalties. You guys can
We won the
prepay as
lottery,
you
we can
want.
pay it off tomorrow.
You're more than welcome to. City Center.
Big year at the pool.
Or March Madness, whatever.
Or who wins its basketball? Might
Yeah.
have something to do with that, I don't
Cletus is
know.
gonna really
Cletus.
kick it in. He's
Yeah.
got finance.
But what we found attractive was, when we met with Zinner, and they presented this sheet that had, I hate to say it, but I call him the sugar daddy down in Texas that owned all these oil wells that, and that's what it seemed to be. And we talked to him on a conference call. So as we were done talking, my job was to make sure that it was semi-legit, or is it something, I said right away, is this something that we could stay local with? Is this something that is real? And that's when I reached out to Shannon and, and Park, and I said, well, yeah, we'd love to talk to you. So, and the gentleman that is handling all of this on the legal side is Dennis Schwally, who is also a part that is in the same business with our bond counsel. So it's all on the up and up. I mean,
He's with
He and Ed
Denzel.
Caveza work in the same for the same law firm.
Dinsmore Scholl now, used to be Beck Schaefer.
yes, that's right.
And Dennis does all of the work for the bank. You actually hire him as bond counsel on this deal or counsel, but from the standpoint of, he's protected both parties in this instance, giving us a qualified opinion, and he prepares all your ordinance paperwork as well as right through our closing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been given to Lynn. Our hope would be to have first reading of the ordinance. Well, actually, I guess it would be two ordinances, right? One to approve the financing package, the other to purchase the census system. Our hope would be to have it for first reading on Monday, April 6th. Second reading on Monday, April 20th. We would do it as an emergency so that we wouldn't then have to wait the 30 days after that. We would then set up our closing on the financing and put the order through with census, so we can get rolling, and then we'll have, judging by the implementation schedule that census shared with us, our water distribution crews will have a very busy summer.
I actually have a legislative request for tonight to start the ball rolling. So, start working on
This?
it. We can talk about it toward the end of the meeting, or I know Erin was wanting to give her presentation, and then we didn't want to keep her any longer than
Banker's hours?
I
what
appreciate
she wanted to do. So, I guess really right now, if you have any questions, any kind of about financing or anything that you would like to ask them about, that's the whole reason they're here.
What was the total amount, John, of the whole?
Theirs is not to exceed
$460,000.
$460,000. The total cost of everything is $573,250. Some of that money is coming from the wastewater replacement fund, about $113,250. So that's kind of the way we set it up. It was based, if you guys remember right, this was all included in our rate study. This was included along with the tank on the east side, and then we set our rates in order to pay that off over a period of time. So as our rates increased, it would help pay for the automatic metering system and the new tank on the east side.
And one thing too is that if 460, we just did a not to exceed number. So if it comes in lower, you guys don't need to draw the full thing, the full amount, then we will adjust our amortization schedule and make sure that your payments are adjusted accordingly to whatever it is you do draw over those first 12 months. So it's just a not to exceed.
Did you say there was more than one option for presentation, or just one? Or options? Or?
Well, what we had originally talked about was just a general obligation bond. which is just regular financing through the city. It's still unvoted debt that the city adds, but the big difference is it goes on your balance sheet as debt. A lease does not.
One of the
It's
things
off
that I
balance
thought
sheet.
was most attractive about this, especially as we look to seek that maybe more traditional avenue for financing the west end, east end tank. This debt, for when we have our conference call with Moody's and they're reviewing our bond rating and all of that, this will not show as long-term debt on the city because it's a lease and it's a 1 year. What's the terminology?
It's appropriation.
There
You guys have to appropriate the funds for the payment every year.
Yeah. So and again, we kind of got tipped off to this idea from this conference call we had with this person in Texas that works for this. It's almost like a venture capital financing firm. I mean, that was the feel that I had.
The name of the company was Government Capital.
Yeah, but it's it's something that he said they had done deals in Ohio like this. Park National Bank has done deals like this, so we're not blazing any trail with this method of financing it, but it has the advantage of not needing to be shown as debt.
The options as far as financing, you could go longer if you want, but it makes sense for this type of equipment that we agreed that a 5-year payout met your repayment source with the increases in your water and sewer rates, and the fact that, software does change, and keeping it to a shorter term is probably the best thing at this point.
So when we built this into the rate study, we built the payment of this only in the water rates. So like John said, what we're going to do is we're going to take money out of the wastewater, what was it, replacement fund.
663.
Yeah. And then that will be, because obviously these meters, we not only get revenue on the water side, we also get revenue on the wastewater side. But since we didn't factor, the payment for it into anything regarding wastewater, we said, well, then let's take this out of that fund, out of wastewater, and that'll be the wastewater's contribution to this system being implemented.
How'd you come up with the mix? Wastewater versus water?
Just the first year payment we just took out of it, and the rest of it is, since it's built into the water rates, comes out of water.
So are we going to have 12 months without a payment? Or are we going
To Park National, yes, but we're also not financing 100% of the cost through Park National either. So the initial payment will come out of that fund for wastewater. Yeah.
Then we're going to finance.
Because those new rates are in effect now. So next year, next April or whatever rolls around and it's time to make that first payment to Park, our water rate structure will have that money, that pot of money sitting there ready to make a payment.
So this total package is going to be the 460 plus our 115?
No.
113?
Total package, oh, yes. What's the,
573 is
There
the
you
total
go.
cost.
there you go.
All right. Does everybody understand that? This is not a $460,000 investment. This is 573,250.
Yes, sir.
Based on our current system, the way we read now, how many years does it take for this to actually pay for itself?
Oh, wow. Well, it's going to be. Here's where the difference is going to be made. Right now, we have multiple systems in place for meter reading, including the very labor-intensive option of actually walking house to house and going up and touch a thing to the meter itself. From a manpower standpoint in our water distribution, this is going to free up their time, because these things can be read and at any time. Hourly, these things can be read. So
It takes 30 seconds to read the whole thing.
yeah. So first of all, from a manpower standpoint, we're going to be able to utilize our water distribution crew members for more maintenance of the system itself, which is what we're kind of lagging behind in. You know, we have water valves on the main lines throughout the city, but these things need to be exercised on a regular basis, or if they're not, when there's a water main break that happens, you're not going to be able to shut the water down because the valve's not going to work well enough. That was why we recently purchased the tool that will help to, turn these valves quicker. So our guys are going to be able to, rather than walking door to door through various neighborhoods or driving through others to read meters, they're going to be able to be doing more system maintenance on the water distribution system. Now, is there a price tag on that? I don't know that we've come up with one, but we know that the man hours that we're going to save and be able to then redirect are going to be substantial. There's another benefit to this thing too, and I don't know quite how you put a dollar value on this, but it's a heck of a service. Let's say you go on vacation for a week, and when you have set up your water account with us, you've done a good job of providing us with contact information where we can actually contact you if something happens. Let's say you go on vacation, and while you're on vacation, a water pipe in your house bursts. This system, again, can be set up to read hourly, and we can set a limit on it that says if we have a customer that's using X amount of gallons of water per hour, let us know. So when your pipe has burst in your house in the middle of the night, when we come in the morning, our utilities payment clerks will have a report sent to them that will say, we've got an alert here on this account. And it'll show how much water has been used hour by hour on that account. We can then reach out, contact the customer, say, hey, don't know if you're aware of this or not, but you're using an awful lot of water at 3 a.m. in the morning.
I've had that happen already.
So what would you like for us to do? You would say, well, I'm on vacation, so obviously I'm not using that water. Either a pipe has burst or some kid's, playing a prank or whatever, and please go shut my water off to my house till I get home. So, the service of trying to prevent people from having swimming pools in their basement, can you put a price tag on that? I don't know, but it sure will be a benefit to all of our customers to be made aware of the fact that they may have something from a slow leak in a toilet to pipe bursting in their house, and be made aware of it.
I had that happen when I was in the hospital, and my mother came up from Kentucky, and so I had to wash everything in the house, every curtain. And I got a phone call. It was that bad. But anyway, what it was referring to was if it takes X number of hours to read the meters, and at what point is this really going to start saving us money?
Oh.
Well, it's going to start saving money immediately, but that's kind of what the mayor's talking about. I mean, we'll be able to direct personnel in other directions to do stuff that needs to be done that we're running behind on. So that's the main thing, and then the service to our customers. the warning system and different things. I mean, you got to look at the whole picture of this. It's not just dollars and cents, but it's also a service to all of our customers.
Because are we going to lay anybody off on our water distribution crew? No. So are we going to save money? No. But what we're going to do is we're going to get some stuff done that needs to get done.
Can you
That
give
hasn't
terms of
been-
value added to the services provided? Put that in a news release or flyer with your building?
But yeah, I mean, this is going to be we will have to, we're going to, through our existing outlets of social media, the utility bills and such, this is going to be a process implementing this. And for some people, they're going to see it, depending on how old their current meter reading system is. I mean, I think it may differ how we have to install these. So some people are going to be made more aware of the fact that we're doing this than others. But yeah, there's going to be a need for us to notify people that we're implementing this system, and that it's going to take some time for us to get it put in place throughout the city. And we may be contacting you because we may need your assistance in accessing where these things need to go. Some of these are inside houses. Some of these are outside houses. Some of these
We're going to be getting in touch. I think we figured there's about 200 meters out of the 4,000 meters in the city that we will actually be replacing the meters. So we'll have to get inside and replace that meter because they're too old and they can't be reprogrammed. What we have to do is we have to reprogram the meter so that it reads in smaller amounts. Right now, the meter clicks over every 750 gallons. You get a click over. Well, that's not enough to warn someone that there's a problem. We want it to be more fine than that. So we're going to reprogram those meters so every time 7.5 gallons is used, then that'll let us know. So there's going to be some reprogramming, a few things that's going to be involved, and that's what I talked about. When they go up to the house, they'll be snapping a new unit on the outside of the house. Then they'll be reprogramming that meter that's inside the house. Some meters, which I'm saying is about 200 meters, will probably eventually have to switch out over a period of time. So that's kind of the way it works. I also want to mention is, I've talked about this before, we're behind on this. And I will talk in a little bit later about the way things are going and proceeding as far as like monitoring things like this. We've got communities, villages that have this system. We don't. You got cities like villages like Johnstown, villages like Buckeye Lake that have it. Hebron's got it. Newark's got it. So, this is something that we've kind of curtailed for a long time. And it's time to jump in and just, like everybody else did, it's a big expense up front, but you're going to reap benefits from this system way down the road that you're not realizing it's going to happen because you have these capabilities. I've mentioned to you about being able to shut the water off automatic. That's going to all tie into this program. You're going to be able to set the lady up here instead of sending someone out in the truck and the men out there getting on the valve and shutting it off. Well, she's going to hit a button inside here and it's going to shut that person's water off on a final bill, on non-payment, on one tenant leaving and another tenant moving in. Right now we send guys out all the time in trucks. That's all they do. Well, that capability's not far away. I mean, so we got to make the first step before we can get to the second step.
Yeah, that is not as part of this, but that's the next technology that's coming. Is to be able to have a meter reading system that also allows you to remotely turn off somebody's water for whatever the reason might be.
So if you're going to be installing this in June, when are you going to start your public relations campaign?
I don't know if I'd call it a public relations campaign. I think it's just a matter of informing people that we're going to be doing it. I mean, can be well.
Like I said,
let's get the ordinance passed and get the agreement signed first. But
and some people won't even know we're there. I mean, the majority of people won't even know that we're there at their house.
So
but
you want to tell people what you're doing, just the value added to city services.
Right. We have a consumer confidence report that comes out in July. that would be a great opportunity for us to include that in the consumer confidence report, that is being added.
But if you're starting in June, then you might want to get ahead of the curve.
Well, we have different social media that we can use. We can put it on our internet. We can put it in our bills. I mean, people read the bill all the time. Right off to the side, there's messages. We'll be allowing them. We'll keep everybody informed.
Worldwide on YouTube tonight.
Yeah, it's
There you go.
It's going to be on YouTube.
Thank you.
So, any other questions?
Aaron, I want to say thank you for helping to navigate through this with us. You folks have been helpful as far as the information, and Dennis, I think, has done a good job for both of us as well. So thank you both for helping to get us to this point. We're glad to be working with you.
We just appreciate the opportunity. These other companies pop up all over the place, so we like to keep it local as well, so thank you.
And so do we.
That's the
Yeah.
first thing we said, so
Appreciate that.
thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody have any other questions, Glenn, before we let them? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Appreciate your time this evening, too. Thank you.
See you again, Aaron.
Nice seeing you.
Take care.
Hey, thanks.
No problem.
See you somewhere down the road.
That's right.
Hey, thank you.
Next item. All the way to number 2.
It'll go pretty quick. I don't really have a whole lot tonight, but I do want to mention a few things while we're here. I kind of put together a little timeline just for everybody's interest to see, when we started, a lot of the improvements that took place. If you look on the next page, you can see that in 1957 everything got started around here, and down at the water plant, that was the very first improvement in the design and building of the water treatment plant. 1962 we started the wastewater plant, and you can see that we started out with a 1 million gallon a day plant. And you can see how things have progressed through the years in the 70s and the 80s. I'm not going to go into every specific things, but and some things were big projects and some things were smaller projects, but all things have been an improvement in the water and the wastewater sides of things. A big improvement was the wastewater solids and handling improvement in 2001. As you keep going on, the Grandview lift station improvements, we had a lot of problems over there. That's when I got the first taste of wastewater. On the second part of that was the re-engineering of the Grandview lift station, and what we had to.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess.
I was hoping that was figuratively.
Yeah, I guess it didn't sound too good, did it?
I wanted to think
But-
you were the E. coli.
But that's
That
when I,
lift station had
that's when I
problems in the
became a
early
television
90s,
director, was in
too. It's always
2000.
had.
So we contaminated you, then we
We
appointed you.
contained, yeah, that's
We promoted you.
That's right, exactly. So you can see how things progressed, and then if you get down to 2015, we're looking at the automatic meter reading system. We're looking at the WCLT, or what I guess we're going to be calling that is the Evans Court tank. We're getting into a brand new scum removal system at the wastewater plant that we replaced. It was put in the early 1990s. So as you can see, things have progressed along at a pretty steady pace. What's really sad is I actually got started with the city in the 80s, so I'm clear up to the top of this thing. So I've been involved in this.
You could put birth of the utilities director in 67, you know? You could put that in there.
We could.
It all kind of comes together.
But something I went to a seminar last week, and there was a gentleman that got up, and he stood up and he was talking. And he was a very interesting person. He had suffered a stroke, but he was a PhD, and he was a geologist, and he became an engineer, and he went back to school, and I mean, he just continually, and then he got into computers, and he became a computer engineer. I mean, this guy had all kinds unbelievable stories to talk about and everything. But then he started talking a little bit about the future, and I'm like, man, I can relate to this. And I don't know if any of you have talked or if you've looked on the internet and looked under the Internet of Things, is what it's called. And this is something that's going to take place, he talked about, within the next 5 to 8 years. And as he was talking, I was relating exactly, what we were doing here recently with the city. But I'm going to kind of read this just a little bit. The Internet of Things is the network of physical objects or things embedded with electronic software, sensors, and connectivity to enable it to achieve greater value and service by exchanging data with the manufacturer, operator, and or other connected devices. Each thing is uniquely identifiable through its embedded computing system, but is able to interoperate within the existing internet infrastructures. Typically, the Internet of Things is expected to offer advances in connectivity of devices, systems, and services that goes beyond machine to machine and covers a variety of protocol domains and applications. The interconnection of these embedded devices, including smart objects, is expected to usher in automation in nearly all fields, while also enabling advancement in applications like smart grids. Things in the Internet of Things can refer to a wide variety of devices such as heart monitoring implants, biochips, transponders on farm animals, electric plants and coastal waters, automobiles with built-in sensors, or field operation devices that assist firefighters in search and rescue. These devices collect useful data with the help of various existing technologies, and then, I'm not sure what that is, autonomously flow the data between the devices. Current market examples include smart thermostat systems, washers and dryers that utilize Wi-Fi for remote monitoring. So I guess what this whole thing means, and this guy says this is going to happen within the next 5 years. Every piece of equipment that we get, whether it's a motor, it's a piece of equipment at the wastewater plant, it's a piece of equipment at the water department, is going to have a chip in it that's about the size of the end of your finger. And right now we have PLCs that do that. But this is already developed, this chip. It'll go in and it'll tell you whether that motor, what the bearing is going to, how hot it is, if there's something going on in the windings, if that piece of equipment is showing some kind of a failure in some way. It goes into it, from there it goes into a database. And this database will notify you back saying, hey, you got a motor on one of your blowers that's about ready to go out. Well, and it's going to say, what the temperature of that is. And we're going to have all this information. It's going to be information all the time. So when I started thinking about it, I started thinking about, this automatic meter reading system that we're getting in. That's exactly what it is. This meter reading is going to give us a reading at somebody's house on whenever we're able to, whatever sequence we want that to happen, every hour, every 15 minutes, every whatever we want it to be. That information is going to come into us. Well, it doesn't actually come into us. It's going into a database that's on the internet. We will go into that database and retrieve all those readings. So this thing's going to take off, according to this gentleman. And like I said, he was a real interesting guy, and he could just talk and talk forever and ever. But he would go into all different specifics about, whether or not, you can insert this chip in someone's body. It can tell you their vital signs. It can tell you all this information about this person. So, I don't know as much about that as what he was explaining, but according to this, there's going to be information is going to be unbelievable, because he explained it like this: we're going into a different type of an internet where we can receive more information than we have ever received before. So, and I think they call this Internet 6. We're in Internet 4 now, and this is going to be Internet 6. So there's going to be just a bunch of information that we're going to utilize in the future. And I kind of wanted to throw this in the perspective of this automatic meter reading system, because I think this is just the start of a lot of things that we're going to see in the future. I think whenever we upgrade anything, you're going to see this chip in it. Any piece of equipment that we have is going to have this chip in it. And it's going to be able to monitor that piece of equipment. And we're going to be able to monitor how well that piece of equipment is performing. So I thought it was really interesting. I kind of wanted to talk to about it. But if you get a chance, look on the internet, under the Internet of Things, and it's just unbelievable on the information that we're going to have. So I wanted to throw that at you. I wanted to talk a little bit about future improvements possibly that we're going to be meeting at the wastewater plant down the road. Nothing real big, but what I kind of wanted to talk about, we discussed this in our meeting today at the wastewater plant. We have a meeting every Monday down there and discuss things that need to be done for that week and so forth. So one of the things we discussed was we would like to go in and get our wastewater plant re-rated as far as exactly what we could treat. You know, Mayor, when we talk, an industry comes in and they talk about, well, what's your capacity? And we always put down 1.75. Well, we're finding out that the reason why we were reduced, we actually, if you look on the timeline, at one time we were a 2 million a gallon day plant, and then we reduced it down to 1.75. Well, the reason for that was, and some of you will remember this, probably Cletus, we were under findings and orders to get certain things done down there, and they put in a filtration system down there. Well, that filtration system, because we're working and utilizing the other systems better than we've ever used before, we're able to not put in that filtration system, and that filtration system lowered our capacity from about 1.75, from 2 down to 1.75. Well, we're going to get with an engineer later on this year, and we're going to talk about what our capacities are, because we feel that the capacity of the wastewater plant is a lot more than what we're actually telling people. Go ahead.
Your peak is 7 million gallons a day.
That's as max. We hydraulically we can put 7 million gallons a day through that plant. We've almost came to that at points.
And actually treat it.
And actually treat it to a certain point, yes.
But they only rate you at 1.75.
But they rate us at 1.75.
Because if we were at 7 million gallons every day, the plant couldn't handle that. It can handle it as a peak. It can't handle it as a norm.
We can handle it a one-time shot, but we couldn't do that on a consistent basis.
What do you think you can do on a consistent basis?
Well, you know, we talked about that a little bit today, and we honestly think that we're at least 2.5.
And
Really?
do you think that'll make a difference on the industry that we can attract?
I know.
Oh, absolutely.
I know.
Have we
Without
lost
a doubt.
industry that your knowledge because we were only at
And
1.75?
what we've got to do is we got to meet with an engineer. He's got to kind of rework some things and present that to the EPA. And I think we could get reclassified as far as what our rating is down there.
Let me answer Brian's question now.
I'm sorry.
The answer is I'm not sure, because Dan Evers knows what our capacities are. He knows what our rates are. And when we have a project looking at us where he just wants to re-verify things, he'll get with us. John shoots him the information right away, and that's that. But those are on projects where he has replied with properties in Heath. If there's a project that's out there that has a wastewater requirement that is beyond what Dan knows is our capacity, he's not going to reply to that with a property in Heath. So it doesn't happen every day. Probably, I would say that a comfortable majority of projects have, we have the capacity to handle them. Some of them would push us. Maybe some of them would push us, pretty much to the capacity level. So it's probably few and far between where we would have to pass on a project because of that. But you don't want to pass on any project if you don't have to. And so, I'm really excited about this. Now, what is the process for doing this? How do you, I'm sorry, you described that, but how long is the process for doing this?
It's just a matter of meeting with an engineer, him look at the numbers and the size of our aeration tanks, know how we normally treat, what our BOD loadings are on a normal, consistent basis, then him going and us taking that information to the EP and say, hey, look, we were rated at 1.75. We no longer use the filtration system because the systems that we currently have are doing better, and we don't need to use that filtration system. So we need to be redesignated as a higher design rate. Wow.
I know.
So I think, I think it's a matter of an engineer putting a stamp on it and sending it to the EPA.
That'd be good.
What's the current constraint on the capacity of the wastewater treatment plant?
Right now, we can handle peak flows of 7 million gallons a day, but we can, on a consistent basis, we can only treat 1.75.
What the solids handling? Is it aeration,
Extended aeration.
extended aeration is the constraint?
And then we
Can
also
you
have
solve
solid.
that by going to a different form of aeration?
We actually have plenty of aeration capacity. We were talking about that today. We only utilize, out of the 3 aeration chambers, we only utilize 2 of them on a treatment basis.
Well, is it the exchange rate then?
Well, for example, less than 10 years ago, we was running 9 milligrams per liter mixed liquors,
Mm-hmm.
average, and now we're averaging like 3 and treat. And a lot of that had to do with the upgrade we did with the aeration system, with the blowers and stuff. So I mean, we could go back to the 9 milligrams per liter and treat
Still treat.
more.
That's what I was talking about on the loadings and stuff. You know, our loading capacity, we have more than we. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the being able to, the dissolved oxygen in each tank, being able to monitor that and regulate that.
Well,
And we didn't have that capability.
we had to carry that heavier load
Mhm.
to use the DO in the tanks because we was over aerated.
Right.
So with less DO in the tank, we don't have to carry that heavy amount of mixed liquors. So it actually treats quicker.
I think that's outstanding.
Who do we, well, I'll get the ball rolling.
Okay. All right.
We'll get things going. You know, I talked a little bit about the future improvements. There's some improvements that can be done down at the wastewater plant, such as ultraviolet ultraviolet disinfection that we could use down there, and that doesn't take as long as the detention time. So that's something we can make improvements with. You know, we can always increase our roll pumps, and there's different things that we can do for future improvements. The other thing I have here is the fund balances. If anyone's interested in what Jeff, you was asking about the wastewater replacement fund. If you look to the right of that,
663.
yeah, that's the amount of money that's in the way of wastewater replacement fund on number 4. So, also wanted to mention delinquents. We do have a couple delinquents here. If you're willing to pass that around, there are 2 of them on the list that would go on the auditors, to the Lincoln County auditor. And I'd like to get approval on that. Put on the council agenda. Other than that, there's more that we could, I think we went pretty much through everything. If anyone's got any questions or anything. I do have 2 legislative requests. Mayor, I don't know, tried to get a hold of Dave Morrison today, never returned my call, but this is kind of the way I did it. If he wants to redo it, however he wants to do it to make it work, but you know, I showed that we had so much coming out of the replacement fund. I showed that what we were borrowing, and I showed the total cost of the project. However he wants to go about doing that. And then I also have an ordinance waiving competitive bidding and authorizing and directing the mayor to allow for sale of a 1998 Kubota rotary mower that we have at the water plant to be able to get permission to sell that.
So, let me ask you a question. There's one legislative request dealing with the automatic meter reading system. Do we need 2 ordinances? One to approve us signing a financing package with Park National Bank, an entirely separate one authorizing us to purchase the equipment from.
I tried to find that out today. I talked to Becky and she wasn't quite sure, but she thought we could throw everything into one like that. I called Dave Morrison. He never returned my call today. Talked to Jay a little bit, and Jay talked a little bit about it. We wasn't quite sure how we were going to do that, but how I wrote it up was just everything on one ordinance, and I figured if they want us to separate it out.
No, we should be able to do that. I mean, you can address more than one thing in an ordinance.
That's what we kind of thought.
Especially when they're so closely related like this.
Okay. I threw a little bit of everything in there.
Tim, don't you think?
It probably wouldn't matter. I mean, if you want to do 2, do 2. If you want to do 1, do. I mean, the other thing would be is if you decide to do your finance, you want to get the stuff bought, but then you had to get the, I mean,
Yeah.
one had to be done more days ahead of the other or something
Yeah.
like that. Then I would say do 2. But
Doing it at the same, that we don't have that issue with this.
And one's contingent upon the other, so.
yeah,
Another thing I also
you're not going to
mentioned
fund it
in
unless
there-
you buy it.
That's right.
You know, so you don't need the funding unless you.
Was the cut, we got,
We're not gonna buy it till we sign the funding.
what's in that ordinance is the money that we're borrowing, money that we're transferring, and who we're gonna pay it to. There's three things in that ordinance, okay? HD Supply is a company that handles the census equipment, so that's who we would pay it. We're leasing through Park National Bank, and we're moving money from the replacement fund to do all that. So it's all on one legislative request.
That way later on, someone finding that would know what the
Yeah.
sequence was.
Yeah.
So unless David says otherwise, I'd say he would.
Now, I'm not sure this, before you adjourn, I just want to mention this. I'm not sure this is, if it was something that came up, I'm not sure that I don't remember hearing it. This type of financing, we can do other things like this as well. We could purchase police cars like this. We could do, I mean, I kind of got my eyes opened a little bit to this option and what it, you know, can hold. And the way that this is drawn up is such that, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember us talking about this at least. This is drawn up such that once we pay, you know, it off, it's not really a line of credit because Park National would have to approve whatever else we would want to lease, but we wouldn't have to go through the whole closing thing again. So from that standpoint, it would kind of like be a line of credit. So, you know, it was, like I said, I got an education in understanding this, and in other applications, I could see where doing this type of thing would be an attractive way of paying for stuff. So I just thought I'd mention that because, you know, down the road we might be able to do some things like that too, and not have to go through the whole thing with another closing with Park and that kind of thing. Yes, sir.
What's the expiration date on your NPDS permit with the Ohio EPA?
We just renewed it. Was it last year?
I think it was last year.
2000 and.
But they have to modify your permit, reissue it if you change. Because the reading is in the fact sheet and one of the sections of it.
You might have to wait till the next permit.
That's a very good possibility, but it's something we're gonna have to check into.
But it's only what?
It's a
So if
3-year
it's simple though, it could, you just.
It's a 3 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's simple administrative, it may not.
Would
take
it
much time.
change the classification of the plant?
No,
that's
because you have to be
operating.
above 5 million.
Oh, is that right?
So we're still at 3.
Okay.
So we wouldn't jump that high.
And
You know,
yeah, and
this
I said 3
automatic meter
million.
reader system,
Should have said 3,000. Make.
a lot of old technology, but
I
I
just
tell you,
realized
it's
I'm
going
used
to
to
make a difference.
preheat and everything. I'm like, yeah.
I mean, you might find out that the water going into what, like Southgate, you say it's putting in 1 million gallons a day through there. You might find several leaks in the lines through there that you can cut that down in half.
This information thing I was talking about, I think you're gonna see a lot of stuff like that,
See,
where it's
that
inserted in
system is
main.
adapted off of your missile systems.
Mm-hmm.
It's called probably feedback systems. You know. Every signal you send out, you get it back feed off of it, and then you tell everything.
Do you have master meters set different places or?
We could do studies where they insert them in sewers. We've done that before. We've done studies to get like different flows coming from different areas. But we do have master meters in some locations where it's up to the individual what they want. Like we have some condos that have master meters, then the whole facility is just read with a master meter. But we don't really have any inline meters that give us information on like certain areas that use more water or something like that. We've run tracer studies and different things where we can trace how long it takes for water to get from the water plant to the farthest location, like Forest Hills, which is done. But what we did on that was we just quit feeding fluoride, and then we monitored how long it took to get from the plant, and then as soon as we notice a drop in the fluoride level, well, we know right now that it takes about 2.5 days to get from the water plant to Forest Hills. Is what we ended up figuring out. So that's kind of the way to use it. It's used up, put in tanks, goes from one tank to another tank, and then so there's about a 2.5 day travel time for one of our furthest locations.
Only because you have all those tanks back up there.
Right.
We have the tanks.
We have a series, and it's kind of unusual. We pump from Licking View to CLT. From CLT, it flows down to Blue Jay booster station. From Blue Jay booster station, pumps up in the Blue Jay tank. From Blue Jay tank, it feeds the Mayor's Willow Ridge area, and then also Forest Hills area. That's kind of a sequence. And then there's the main part of Heath, which is fed and takes up that water as you pump it to that location. Then some of it's pumped to the west side for the high pressure zone and things in that area. But
So you're saying the mayor gets stale water?
well, every once in a while.
Yeah, it was funny.
We get the fresh
Since when
If you live in the main part of Heath, like Oberlin, Frontal Drive
There you go.
area,
The flat
The fresh stuff.
fresher water,
the flat ground.
and flat ground.
And one thing you did say up front, or that John Appleman said, that it's neighborhood to neighborhood. You know, where I live on Cynthia Street, you'll have to do the most work on these sensors up there where the mayor lives, or whatever. There's different. It doesn't matter. It's funny how, because I was asking, well, is it just one area? They said, well, not really. It's kind of neighborhood by neighborhood. And I know one thing when I first started working here, and phone calls were coming in about the water bills. You send out 2 water bills to the newer homes, but like mine, I would only get 1, and I still haven't completely figured that out yet. But
What's water bills? Probably because they have a deduct meter.
yes, it's
Some homes have
Double meter.
what they do is if they use water on the outside for washing,
yes, yeah.
then they have a separate metering system, and they're not charged wastewater on those meters. And anybody can put a deduct meter in. It doesn't just have to be like in newer homes. I mean, you could put
I
a
could
deduct
put one
meter.
in, right?
Yes.
But they're on
What you
all
got to
the new
remember is that you will get a monthly minimum bill on that
Right,
meter.
exactly. Yep.
So you got to weigh out whether you're going to benefit from that.
Right. When I first walked in there, and they said if somebody calls in, here's the bill, but make sure that they put this one. I don't know, only get 1. Where I just thought that was interesting.
The HD Supply automated systems, I forgot to ask, the warranty associated with this, how long, we got a lot of chips, a lot of electronics, a lot of other stuff, what's the warranty on this?
I think it's a year warranty on certain parts.
1 year warranty.
1 year warranty. But they have very seldom fail. I mean, they don't run into that much failure problems. I mean, this is not a system that's just brand new. I mean, this has been out for a long time. They also have the batteries there are guaranteed for 10 years inside the system. So that's one guarantee.
Usually if you get all that solid state stuff, if you get it, it lasts 3 months, it's gonna last for 30 years.
That very little.
You
failure.
look at your TV, most TVs that you bought in the last 10 years, that sucker lasts 3 months. You'll never have a maintenance bill on it.
So
But a
within the
computer,
person.
that's a different story because you're manipulating it all the time. Electronics is crazy.
I just know how much we spend on fire trucks, squads, because of all of the electronics that tend to malfunction.
When we went and visited these different places, Buckeye Lake has had their system in for 3 years now. They have no problems at all. When we went there and visited there, so they hadn't even, their batteries, they didn't complain of anything as far as not working properly or anything like that.
Did they get grant money for this?
That was part of that.
So some of these villages that are qualifying for grants,
Buckeye Lake was the only one that really got the stimulus money. And what they did, they got, I think it was really, I know Buckeye Lake got the stimulus money. I know Newark got some stimulus money. But it seemed like the county seat and then one of the most needed place in that county got money.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be the trend through all the stimulus. That we
In
thought was-
Ohio, that was the way that money was divvied up. It was spread like butter on toast.
And everybody at the beginning thought that we were all gonna get a piece of this pie, and it didn't turn out that way.
Did we apply?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
big time.
The tank.
The high pressure zone tank we
Yeah.
applied for. Oh, yeah.
We got enough.
Public utilities.
several
guy talked to
projects. We got
us a
enough.
couple weeks ago downtown. He said if you get a good automatic reader system like you were talking about, he said it'll pay for itself in 1 year just on people running here and running there and customer satisfaction.
Kim order us pizza?
What's, you got a pizza
Did
order?
Kim order us pizza?
I don't know, but I'm ready.
We get snowed in, we may have no choice.
I'm ready. That's what it is.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Mark's gotta find out big enough, isn't he?
We give them a tip.
Let's take the pizza and send it back to police department.
Was that a piece of
Yeah, is there tax, you got tax people back here? Working?
No. Lynn's back there. I'm sure she's not.
Police department.
Police department.
Son of a gun. Maybe we can hijack
Should have asked if it was paid for. If it's paid for, we're here.
Yeah. it. Anybody else have anything
Anything else? Questions, comments? Okay, we're adjourned right at 6:30 then. Good job.
My water meter's been there since '95, I know.
Oh,
One of the older ones, or-
Total is
Actually, I think that you'll be okay. We can reprogram
The whole
that.
city?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is
We're financing for it.
The sewer line on
460.
Indian Head, whereabouts?
462, 573.
Down his end of the street or down his end of the street?
Out of wastewater.
That's what we're going
His end of the street?
Because the meters are read so they can bill for the wastewater.
Hey, what are you doing on the sewer line down there?
Water pays rent.
Why would you replace your sewer line? Do you have any insight on that?
That's some city.
I think it's an age thing.
Oh.
Some settling takes place in.
I don't think that's, I don't think that's something to do for everyone, because
It was over on the police side.
Everybody's not gonna do it.
Right.
Like that.